Is Bitcoin going to go up in price over the next few years? Instead of giving you a price prediction, I'm going to give you 3 reasons that I believe that Bitcoin will increase in value over the next few years and into the future. The sky is the limit, and we've never had something like Bitcoin before. This has never happened in the history of financial products. Bitcoin is a totally new world. And we're going to talk about the 3 reasons that I believe that Bitcoin will increase in value over the next few years. So make sure you guys stay tuned. What's the deal? Why do I believe that Bitcoin will increase in value over the next few years and into the future? Why do I believe that one day Bitcoin will reach astronomical prices that people can't even comprehend today? And I'm not talking about 20,000, I'm not talking about 50,000, I'm not talking about 100,000. I'm talking about $1 million. $1 million and more than that. Instead of me just standing here and giving you guys price predictions, let's talk about the 3 key drivers to this momentum behind Bitcoin and why Bitcoin will continue to increase in value going forward. Now, one thing that I want to clarify here is that there's obviously going to be volatility along the way. The chance that Bitcoin goes to $20,000 and then this goes 50 and then to 100 is very slim. But overall, if you look at the price of Bitcoin, since day one, there's been big spikes, there's been big drops, but there is one key thing to focus on when looking at the price of Bitcoin. The lows are becoming higher and higher. Every dip is getting bought up, especially recently when Bitcoin broke over 15,000, rallied to 16, dropped back to 14.5, and then back above 15 again. It's been a roller coaster ride, but the key here is that when you're looking at the chart, instead of focusing on the up and down movements, let's focus on how the lows are getting higher and higher. So obviously that proves one point, that buyers are stepping in there and buying those lows and pushing the price higher. If you look at the big picture, there's one very clear trend. Bitcoin is rising in price. Now, that's not one of my reasons that I believe Bitcoin will increase in value. That's just the chart and the price action in general. The first reason that I believe that Bitcoin will skyrocket in the future, I think this might be the number 1 reason actually. Total supply of Bitcoin. 21 million total Bitcoin will ever be made, will ever be mined. There will never be any more. Unlike in the US where we can just print money and just print and just keep printing and printing and printing. We just keep printing forever. There will only ever be 21 million total Bitcoin. And you've also got to think about it like this. There's probably 2 to 3 million Bitcoin that are lost forever. First investing in Bitcoin might have lost their wallets, they couldn't get into their wallets, they had issues. So people estimate that there's probably 2 to 3 million Bitcoin that are just lost forever. And that's great for us because it only makes the supply smaller. Look at how many people there are in the world. There's billions and billions of people. So how many times does 20 million total Bitcoin go into the actual population of the world? There's obviously billions of people and there's only 20 million Bitcoin. What does that lead me to believe? That's something that's scarce, that's something that can't be printed, that can't be replicated, has value. And that's why Bitcoin has been holding that title of digital gold for quite some time. Even though there's other cryptocurrencies out there, there's altcoins and things like that, at the end of the day, Bitcoin, the classic Bitcoin, has stayed true throughout this time. All right, so my second reason that I believe that Bitcoin will increase in value in the future. People can argue that not everyone wants to invest in Bitcoin. Not everybody wants to buy cryptocurrency, which is a totally fair argument. That's totally fair. Think that Bitcoin's a good investment. That's totally fair. I'm not gonna push it on you. I'm not gonna say that you gotta buy Bitcoin. And if you look at the traditional global stock market, the world of equities around the world, at different countries, all the different stock markets and equities and stocks and investments, you're looking at an $85 trillion $85 trillion world of equities in traditional markets. Right off the bat, you can see that Bitcoin, although it's worth $15,000, That's nothing in comparison to how much money is out there in the world that's invested in stocks and in companies. And we're also living in a world where nowadays there are companies that are valued over $1 trillion. There's a lot more money out there that can be invested in Bitcoin. If you think that everyone in the world, let's say everyone in the world wants to buy $100 worth of Bitcoin, what does that lead to? It leads to just a massive amount of more money coming into Bitcoin. And we've already seen a lot of funds and Wall Street really trying to get behind Bitcoin. You've got Bitcoin futures, you've got Bitcoin ETFs being traded now. There's stuff going on in the market right now that has never been seen before. And obviously Bitcoin is that big leader in the cryptocurrency space because of it. All right, so my final reason, my third and final reason, obviously I've got more reasons, but I'm going to keep it short and sweet here. The third reason that I believe that Bitcoin will increase in value going forward comes down to one simple fact, that at the end of the day, inflation is real. Even though people don't believe that inflation really matters, it matters, because if you think about it like this, if my grandma gave me $100 20 years ago, my grandma said, hey, here's $100. I want you to hold on to this $100 until you're 30 years old. That $100 20 years ago could have bought me a bike, a really nice bike. Well, today in 2020, the chance of buying a nice bike for $100 is almost just impossible at this point. And that's inflation, people. That's why things like gold and silver have had intrinsic value since the dawn of time. If my grandma would have given me $100 worth of gold 20 years ago, well, now today, that $100 worth of gold would be worth more money. And, well, guess what? Bitcoin being this digital gold leads me to believe that Bitcoin will increase in value going forward because people are trying to fight inflation. People are looking for alternative investments away from the stock market. People are looking for just investments in general that are, I would say, against the status quo. People just don't want to go to the bank anymore and say, hey, I want to open a mutual fund. People are becoming more and more adventurous in their investment strategies. And if you look at the world that we live in today, Bitcoin is easier than ever to buy. So going back to 2017, a lot of people had never bought Bitcoin before. A lot of people had never even known what Bitcoin was. There's obviously been a lot more people signing up for Coinbase, a lot more people that are just signing up for Cash App and all these different websites and places that allow you to buy Bitcoin easily. Again, that's leading to this idea that people are buying, people are holding, and people are looking for opportunities in this space. And remember what I said earlier, if everyone just wants to buy a little tiny bit of Bitcoin, what does that do? It sends Bitcoin to the moon. If everyone just wants to buy $100 worth of Bitcoin, well, there's a small amount of Bitcoin for sale, right? And what does that do? It's going to continue to send the price higher. Although Bitcoin seems to be old, we've heard about it for a while now, Bitcoin is still very new. It's very, very new in the investment stock market type of world that we're living in today. And it's even more interesting to see now companies like PayPal coming out saying they're going to allow merchants to accept Bitcoin. They're going to allow PayPal customers to buy and sell Bitcoin, to hold Bitcoin in a PayPal wallet. And what does that do? The argument that most people have that you can't spend Bitcoin anywhere, well, that argument now is invalid. In the future, every single merchant that accepts PayPal will now be able to accept Bitcoin. And people around the world are looking for alternatives to either the US dollar or their own currencies because, like I said, inflation. So now we're creating this entire world with PayPal and different merchants that allow me to buy Bitcoin, to sell Bitcoin, to buy things with Bitcoin. All the arguments that were against Bitcoin in the past, saying that Bitcoin would never have value, would never be usable, buy things with Bitcoin, all those arguments are now out the window. And that's where we are today. And this is only the beginning at this point, really. This is only the beginning. When Bitcoin was $100, people said that Bitcoin was overvalued. When Bitcoin was $1,000, people said that Bitcoin wouldn't keep going up. And when it got to 10,000, they said Bitcoin wouldn't keep going up. And now Bitcoin's at $15,000. Who's to say that 10 years from now, looking back, we're not like, oh my gosh, $15,000 for Bitcoin, that was insane. That's so cheap. If Bitcoin is $100,000 in the future, will that $10,000 purchase that I made, a couple months ago, will that be one of my best investments? We'll find out. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of volatility along the way, up and down. Governments trying to ban Bitcoin. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on fighting the fight. The governments don't want us to have our own cryptocurrency. They don't want us to have Bitcoin. The governments want us to rely on them. They don't want us to be able to send money back and forth easily by not paying for wire fees and doing all this stuff. They don't want us to have our own currency that we can use around the world, no matter what country you live in, no matter what passport you have, no matter how poor you are, or no matter how rich you are. Everybody can have a little bit of Bitcoin. Everybody can own Bitcoin and send Bitcoin back and forth to their families anywhere in the world that basically has Wi-Fi at that point. A lot of drivers pushing Bitcoin into the future, and I think that we're only just at the surface. We're only just tapping into the surface of what's to come with the cryptocurrency Bitcoin space. There it is, my 3 reasons why I believe that Bitcoin will increase in value in the future. If you guys haven't already, do me one big favor, hit that like button, the subscribe button, all the buttons down below. I'll talk to you guys later on.